All right, how's it going, guys? This is a quick, late Sunday night edition of Dog Sports Live. I am Graham Coffee. Many of you know me on Twitter as Dog Out West. If you're watching this and you're not following me, please do. It's at Dog Out West. You see it there in the bottom corner of the screen. Also, please check out the show account at dogsports_live. Yeah, let's get into it, right? These are the 12 takeaways. This has kind of become a Sunday tradition. Really appreciate all you guys that have been sharing and interacting with these on Twitter. So, first and foremost, Georgia is a consensus number one ranked team in season for the first time in my lifetime. I was born in 1989, came of age during the Goff Donnan years, and really remember hearing adults and family members talk about the magic of the early 80s and the Herschel Walker era and playing for a national title 3 seasons in a row. And that kind of felt like an impossibility or felt very, very far away for a long time of my, following and being a fan of Georgia football. So to see UGA here, number one in season, I think is exciting. It's an accomplishment. I think Georgia and Georgia fans have much bigger goals. The question is, will they be number one on January 11th, the morning after the national championship game? But it's always good to be number one. So UGA is. This modern UGA is as much a powerhouse as the early 80s version, but I think it's a much more sustainable model. It's built around deep reserves of elite talent. Georgia's recruiting is not slowing down anytime soon. Really, what they're building is just getting started. What Kirby Smart is doing is kind of still getting started. This season is only going to add to that momentum. So Georgia's here to stay, and they're going to be here for a long, long time. Going into kind of takeaways from the game yesterday. First and foremost, Stetson Bennett. Don't call the guy a game manager, right? So game managers are quarterbacks that come in and they run a limited offense and they hand the ball off on 70% of downs and they're able to hit a tight end in the flat or a little 5-yard out route to a slot receiver. Game managers do not go 7 for 10 for 197 yards on throws past 10 yards. Bennett was pretty lethal downfield yesterday. That first deep ball to McConkey was a bit underthrown, but that's kind of nitpicking. He fixed the trajectory on the second one and put that dagger into Auburn with that long touchdown pass to McConkey, the second one they hooked up on. But more than anything, he looks really comfortable, confident. He's not forcing anything into coverage. I think that's the biggest difference between 2021 Stetson Bennett and 2020 Stetson Bennett is you just see him, get the snap, and it doesn't seem like he's predetermining before the snap where he's going to throw the ball. He's also doing a really good job of, extending plays, but when he extends plays, he's not just forcing the ball into something that's not there. He's willing to throw the ball away. I think, just kind of all around, he looks very under control. And, the deep ball that he's throwing is as good as anyone in the SEC right now. I thought he was a calming influence yesterday when Georgia got down early. It's easy to forget because we did have football last season, but the Georgia-Alabama game last season or Georgia-Arkansas last season, when these guys went on the road, those weren't full stadiums. So that offensive line, none of those guys ever been in a full stadium before. And you get down early on the road, you got the crowd yelling at you. You're a high-ranked team. You're undefeated. It's easy to kind of start feeling some pressure and for everybody to get tight. And he stayed loose the entire time. And I think the rest of the offense and the rest of the team, including the defense, kind of took on his attitude. What Todd Monken is doing right now is, like I said this on Twitter, and it's true, and I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but it's pretty much the offensive coordinator equivalent to dunking on someone with your crotch in their face. Stetson Bennett, 2-star walk-on quarterback. Lad McConkey, 3-star wide receiver. Nobody really wanted. Georgia came in late, offered him got him. I think he was the last guy in his recruiting class that they took. Adonai Mitchell, 3-star true freshman wide receiver. Brock Bowers, 4-star true freshman. Those guys linked up for 188 yards, 9 catches, and 2 touchdowns in their first true SEC road game. Georgia is missing George Pickens, all these guys. We'll talk more about it later, but Todd Monken is scheming up touchdowns with his second and third string skill talent. And that is something that a lot of offensive coordinators just cannot do. And I think his NFL experience is really helpful for Georgia. College coordinators a lot of times are just used to having better talent at elite programs like a Georgia or an Alabama or an Oklahoma. They're just used to having better athletes. And so a lot of times their schemes don't work when the playing field is level. And with Monken, it's just impressive. I also thought, McConkey, Mitchell, Bowers, John Fitzpatrick, Kyrus Jackson, all those skill guys, they blocked incredibly well yesterday, particularly late in the game to open up some good chunk runs. So that was a concern that we had kind of talked about on the show and had pointed out in some film studies earlier in the season. But so far, the last couple of games, it's been really, really good job on the outside, blocking downfield by the wide receivers and tight ends. So more on Monken. I thought the game, he kind of started out with a lot of run on first down, run on second down, throw on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 type sequences. And I remarked on Twitter that, if you're going to start Stetson Bennett and he's going to be in that situation, you got to open up the playbook. You got to let him, run the offense. And I thought that Georgia would have to be less predictable with personnel and play calling in order to, really help Stetson Bennett out. So I was glad to see them do that. It seemed like Monken came to that same realization pretty quick. And, Georgia went down 3-0, punted, and then the defense got a stop. Auburn punts the ball back. And it felt like a different offense on that third possession of the game after that turnover down in the red zone where Georgia only got 3 points out of it. The playbook opened up. You saw, wheel routes to James Cook. You saw Bowers getting balls thrown downfield. Obviously, McConkey got into the action as well as A.D. Mitchell. But still, I thought it was a very good job by Todd Monken and by Kirby Smart, for that matter, not playing a scared game just because you had your backup quarterback and you didn't have your starting skill players in the game. Georgia stayed aggressive, which I think is what you always need to do in football as a whole, but especially on the road at Auburn. That game could have gotten kind of tight if Georgia didn't sort of take control there in the late first, early second quarter, and they were able to do so. So the 3rd and short play where, I think it was late third quarter, the game was still a 2-possession game, and Auburn had just scored that touchdown to bring it to 24-10. And you felt like, Georgia still had work to do and that Auburn's offense was getting a little bit of momentum. That crowd was getting crazy. And then Monken calls that zone read keeper for Bennett where he gets downfield about 30 yards. And I thought that was a brilliant call. It was a critical juncture in the game. Monken saved his best stuff for that moment. And I don't know if Georgia's ever had an offensive coordinator that I trust more to make the right call in a big moment like that. Monken has just been very, very good in those types of situations when Georgia's been in them so far this year. So was impressed with that, and thought that was really kind of the final moment where Georgia sort of deflated that crowd. They didn't get a touchdown off that drive, but they went back up 17, made it a 3-possession game, and then got a 3 and out, and that was really it. So as far as the offense, Lad McConkey, wow, the kid's a complete receiver, right? He's great with the underneath routes. Monken has done a wonderful job of making DBs see him catch a couple of those kind of underneath balls, the little in and out routes early in the game. He sort of shows that to the secondary so that they feel like they can't play him with a ton of cushion, then once the press coverage comes down, McConkey just abuses guys at the top of his routes, right? Like he put the double move on Pritchett the first time. The second time he burned him on the post route. I said pregame, Nehemiah Pritchett on film looked like a guy that Georgia could take advantage of. When McConkey was matched up on him yesterday, he had 3 catches for 118 yards and a touchdown. So felt good about that analysis. But Todd Monken saw the same thing on film that we did on our show, and took advantage of that matchup. And I think that's where he really thrives, is finding matchups. But I think none of us maybe coming into the season expected Lad McConkey to be a matchup problem, and he is a matchup problem. His route running technique is incredibly precise, and just what he's doing is really, really impressive so far. Broderick Jones, you could feel kind of the collective groan from all Georgia fans when Sawyer went down with the ankle, but Jones came in and really road graded the entire second half. He played like the way he played. I think he has that spot locked down. I think it is warranting him being the starter going forward, which would move Sawyer back inside to the guard position. But that has been the hope all offseason, right? Is to be able to move Sawyer back to his natural position. Jones, clearly a gamer, right? Like, I don't know how he's been practicing, but if he's been practicing like that, I think he would have been starting for a while. Georgia ran behind him a lot. Georgia went off the left edge 9 times for 67 yards yesterday, and a lot of that yardage came in the second half after he replaced Jamari Sawyer. So I would expect to see more of him, and was just really impressed with him. He was also Georgia's highest graded pass blocker for the game yesterday, so was doing well in the pass and the run. Vanderbilt game, he looked really good in pass protection, not so great in his run blocking, but yesterday he was getting a lot of push, really moving guys around. Speaking of the run game, I thought it was totally different in the second half. They got held for 2 yards per carry on 18 carries, I think, in the first half. And then, in the second half, Georgia's offense rushed for 135 yards, 6.1 yards per carry on 22 attempts before that last garbage time drive. So impressive turnaround that was capped by a 10-play, 64-yard touchdown drive that was all on the ground. That final drive was basically Georgia taking Auburn's spirit, hope, manhood, however you want to phrase it. Like, they went and did what elite teams do in the fourth quarter of an SEC road game, which is just pound you to death. They had kind of thrown the body blows all day at that Auburn defense, and when it mattered late in the game, they were able to really take control up front on the line of scrimmage. So didn't start out super great on the ground, but really finished the way that you want to finish, especially on the road in the SEC. As far as the defense, it wasn't as dominant as we've seen in some other performances this year. They gave up a lot of yardage kind of between the 20s, but they remain the most timely unit in the country, offense or defense. Georgia's defense is the most timely unit in college football right now. They were able to keep Auburn out of the end zone on 2 fourth down tries that really, would have changed the game, I think, significantly. And then finally in the fourth quarter, that defensive line really took over and started getting Bo Nix to the ground for some sacks and tackles for loss. So, Nix is a different type of challenge. The guy, like, people make fun of him with the Bo Picks nickname, and he can be kind of a punchline for some folks. And it's warranted. Like, he's done some things to deserve that. But he had been playing really good football. He hadn't turned the ball over all year before this game. And he's a unique challenge. He's extremely hard to tackle. And, it kept Georgia from using Jordan Davis as much as normal. So, I thought not having Jordan Davis in the game on first down at times probably gave Auburn an advantage in the run game. And I thought Georgia did an admirable job in the run game without Davis in, and really was able to kind of limit too many explosive plays from happening on the ground. And then, finally the waves and waves of linebackers and D ends and edge guys and D tackles that Georgia throws at you, they were fresh in the fourth quarter, and they were finally able to kind of wear Nix down. So good to see. Latavius Brini continues to be as clutch as anyone on this team so far this year. The play he made in the back of the end zone to close the half was huge. It was identical basically to the one that he made in Charlotte against Clemson in the back of the end zone on 3rd and goal to keep that, to force field goal and keep that a 7-point game. I feel like, just he's kind of there to make a play when you need him. You don't always notice him, but he's done a very, very good job in coverage. He tackles well, just been a really sound player for Georgia. And want to shout him out because I think, his name, I think there was doubts about him going into the season, and people expected to see Tyke Smith come in and take that spot. And even before Tyke Smith got injured, Brini was really holding his own in that position battle and continues to be very, very clutch so far this season. The secondary, I did think looked different once Christopher Smith went out. Don't know exactly what the timetable is for return on his injury, but he's a big part of that defense. He plays fantastically, and he sees things as quick as anyone in college football and really reads plays and reads quarterbacks' eyes very well. But he also does a very good job of organizing the guys around him. So I thought when he went out, you saw Georgia's defense kind of give up some plays and look a little confused for a while. They settled down and made plays when they needed to. Probably Darion Kendrick's worst day in coverage so far as a Bulldog, which isn't saying a lot. He's been very, very good. But, there was a couple kind of moments there. Nix did make some good throws and dropped the ball in the bucket. Ringo probably should have had an interception there. Demetrius Robertson did a good job of getting his arm in between Ringo and the football. But all in all, you hold a team to 10 points, I think you got to be happy. Finally, so these Georgia players are currently out or injured. Eric Gilbert, Jamari Sawyer, Christopher Smith, Kenny McIntosh, Jermaine Burton, Marcus Rosemy, Jack Saint, JT Daniels, Amir Speed, Tresman Marshall, Tate Ratledge, Arian Smith, George Pickens, Jalen Kimber, Dominic Blaylock, Rion Davis. So that is what? Burton, Rosemy. That's basically 6 wide receivers that, I think everyone expected to be in your top 8 wide receivers going into the season. Georgia just went and put up 34 points against a pretty good defense on the road without them. I think if you get some of those guys back healthy, what combination I think is to be determined. I'm not a doctor, don't want to pretend I am, but I do think Georgia will get some of these guys back. If they do, Georgia's going on a run of epic proportions, guys. Monken is scheming up points without all these guys. He's put some of these backup guys and some of these younger guys on tape making plays. All of a sudden, this team becomes, 10, 12 deep at wide receiver. And if you're a defensive coordinator, I don't know how you scheme for that. I don't know how you plan for that. So get some of these weapons back, and this team becomes pretty much impossible to defend. And I think it wins a national championship. I do. I think so far through the year, Georgia has been the most well-rounded, most sound team. Even before Alabama's loss last night, I felt that way, but I really feel that way now. I think Ohio State is coming into form, and they're doing some explosive things on offense, and have been impressed with them the last couple of weeks, but the level of competition hasn't been very great. So kind of holding judgment on them. But with what Georgia has on defense, I think Georgia's defense is really the only elite unit in all of college football. There's no 2019 LSU offense or 2020 Alabama offense out there right now. So Georgia's defense is the best unit in the sport. Georgia's offense has been, I think, somewhere between good and very good so far this year. And I think if you hadn't had injury issues, they would be somewhere between great and elite. So I think if you're Georgia, you get through Kentucky, hopefully next week. We'll come back with plenty of breakdown on that here, over the next 5 days. But you get through Kentucky, and then you're just extremely happy to get to that bye week and kind of see who you have coming into the Florida game and going into November in the stretch run. Another part of the equation here is that assuming Georgia is able to make the college football playoff, there's a month between the SEC title and the college football playoff game starting. So you're going to get even more guys back healthy. So I think this team is just loaded and stacked with talent, but more importantly, it's a player-led program right now, and the standard seems to be internal. These guys are not, playing to beat Team X. They're playing to hold the standard that all of them are accountable to each other for holding. And I think when you have that, you have something very special from a chemistry and leadership standpoint. Seems like that's where Georgia is right now. As Kirby Smart says, humility is a week away. They got a big game against Kentucky. Kentucky does some things very, very well and will present certain challenges next week. I like Georgia to win that game. They opened up as a 22 to 24 point favorite, depending on where you were looking for a reason. But yeah, this team gets healthy and you're talking about, an all-time great team, really. And probably the greatest in Georgia football history. So if you're a Georgia fan, you got a lot to be excited about. Enjoy going out to work and wherever you have to go in the world, and knowing that they're number one in the country. It's been a while since you could say that in season, and should be a lot of fun to see what this group does going forward. I am Graham Coffey. This has been Dog Sports Live. Please subscribe to us on YouTube or Apple or Spotify for the podcast version of this show. You can follow me on Twitter at DogOutWest. And yeah, normally do these a little bit earlier in the day on Sunday or even Saturday nights if Georgia has an early game and I'm able to get it done. I had some stuff to do today, so a little bit late getting this one out, but looks like a good bit of you have tuned in live. So thank you guys for watching, and we will see you on Tuesday for our UGA-Auburn film review show and on Thursday for our Georgia-Kentucky film preview. You guys have a good night.